was obsessed with mazes, running his finger or a pen through them. I bought him maze books, and we created mazes on the living room floor and the deck and the driveway. We played, always, a lot. It can be challenging to play with an autistic child because you don't have tea parties. There's no peekaboo. There's no pretend, and hide and seek is really pointless. But we always played, and we still do. But now, it's all mutual, and we laugh. Oh, how we laugh. And then came tape measures. The big kind you use to measure rooms. This kind. And this. And this. Any kind of tape measure. Tape measure, of course, has numbers on it, which is great. But he didn't just measure things, he carried tape measures with him. And after all, a tape measure can be used as a ramp. As an example, a marble ramp. They make very good marble ramps. And you can have a 36-foot marble ramp. Well, I tell you, that's pretty darn cool. At one point, we had probably 15 tape measures of all kinds of lengths. He stretched them across the deck, the driveway, the lawn. He taped them together, anchored them with rubber bands. He knew all the centimeters and all the inches and all the feet and the meters. And he slept with tape measures. And there was a blacklight period in there. We had purchased a blacklight bulb, and it wasn't the light he liked, it was the bulb itself. He kept it in his box. He slept with it. He insisted on taking it to school. They'd already seen it at sharing time, also known as show and tell, but he nonetheless hoped to display it and talk about it ad infinitum. And then came prisms. This was just a later stage of the lens fixation. Prisms and light diffractors. When he was 11, I emailed a man in Denmark about diffraction gratings because my son wanted me to find out what was available. He dictated the emails to me with all this prescriptive content, and I signed them with his name. And out of the blue, this gentleman in Denmark sent a diffraction grating saying it was provided only to teachers for use in the classroom. I hadn't identified anything about my son, and this man assumed he was a teacher because of the nature of his questions. He was 11. The darn thing, here it is, in this little box, this little protective box. It's worth $2,500, according to the scientist in Denmark. And we got it for free. But my son was disappointed because he wanted a bigger one, and I think the bigger one probably would have cost $50,000. He had many prisms, and he spent hours looking through them and comparing them, and unfortunately sometimes using them to set leaves on fire with the sun as ignition. There was a magnet phase in there too, which I'm kind of glossing over, but there was a period when there were lots of magnets, including the aforementioned one he swallowed. Computers, of course, were a natural draw. No faces, no voices, no demands, no icky textures or pressures. So, computer programs. His favorite program was a fractals program. He would manipulate the iterations and watch the patterns, much as he had watched spinning chains when he was a baby. Fractals were complex yet simple, and they were also omnipresent in the real world, in trees, in buildings, in a dog's fur. The best-known fractal, the Mandelbrot set, was only Launch Point. You can Google it. Mr. Mandelbrot is a hero to many kids on the autistic spectrum, I think. And soon after that, the polyhedra. Here are some. These were three-dimensional versions of his earlier loves, spirals and circles, polyhedra. He knew what an icosahedron was, he knew the names for all of them, and he became a designer. Day after day, week after week, he designed and assembled with many miles of transparent tape beautiful, beautiful things. They ranged in size from about 1 inch across to, well, probably this is one of the biggest ones. But I think there's one bigger than this. I don't have it here. They were all just exquisitely beautiful things, perfectly symmetrical, elaborate. Here's an interesting one here. Most in white, but there are some in color. Little tiny guys, medium sized like this. This is sort of a partial experiment. This is one of my favorites. This is a strange one. They do get squashed, but a lot of them have survived, which is wonderful. And this one, he made into a die with numbers and spots on it for some game. There are probably 100 of these. A few have been given away. He carried one to school every day. He was very protective of them. He had images of them in his head. Cutting them out and taping them together took a really, really long time. Focus is something autistic kids don't have trouble with. And somewhere in there was a laser period. Lasers of all kinds, laser pointers, technical information about the types of lasers and the reach of the beam. He still has a laser in his pocket at any given time. There was also a padlock period. Different types of padlocks and their locks, their combinations, their locks, somewhere in there. And then trebuchets. He had seen them in public broadcasting, and he became totally obsessed, thinking about them, creating them, watching videos of them, and using them. He built small ones from Legos. He built huge ones from sticks. He used popsicle sticks, not because he ever ate popsicle sticks, not because he ever ate popsicles. He borrowed the sticks. We got them donated. He built them out of Tinker Toys and K'NEX pieces. He carried them back and forth to school. As usual, I had trebuchets in my living room, on my deck, in my car, on my dining table, in the hall, in my office. He had several in his bedroom. Here's a sort of medium-sized one. There's a really, really big one over there in the corner, too heavy for me to lift. I cut my foot open on one once. They were really beautiful things, and he didn't want to go anywhere without one. During summer days when I was at work, he would hike to the park with a trebuchet or two in a wagon or a wheelbarrow and spend the day there just watching things, launching things. He was very scientific in the design of the sling, the length of the string, the height of the mast piece, and in particular, the mass of the counterweights. Oh yes, we have weights. We have lots of weights.